Welcome elected members, staff, guests and members of the public to the Ordinary Council meeting of the 11th of March 2026. I declare this meeting opened at 17:34. The City of Busselton acknowledges the Wardandi and Bibbulmun people as the traditional custodians of this region and pays respects to their elders past and present. Thank you for joining us today in person. This is a formal meeting of the City of Busselton and certain protocols apply. The meeting is being live streamed and recorded to ensure an accurate and official record. I kindly ask that you do not record, photograph or take videos during the proceedings, as the official recording will be made available. I understand that you may hear matters that you strongly agree or disagree with. However, as invited observers, I ask that you respect the formal nature of this meeting by refraining from making comments, chatting or applauding during the proceedings. This helps to maintain an environment where business can be conducted efficiently and respectfully, and I thank you for your cooperation on this one. Thank you. Just a reminder, make sure your phones are switched to silent. Item 2 is attendance. Myself, Mayor Cronin, Deputy Mayor Kate Cox. We have Councillor Mueller, Councillor Love, Councillor McNeish, Councillor Dykstra, Councillor Ryan, Councillor Adams and Councillor Kennedy. We have no apologies, no approved leaves of absence. I was presented with a plaque for the City of Busselton from Cricket Australia, thanking the city for supporting the 2026 Toyota Australian Cricket Championships for Busselton Margaret River. So I was pleased to receive that. It was a great event, and I think we did pretty well, did we? So just noticed there. I have disclosures of interest on item 19.1. from the CEO, which is a confidential item. Item 5.1 is responses to previous questions taken on notice. The questions taken on notice at the previous meeting have been responded to via email, and the responses will appear in the minutes of this meeting. Item 5.2 is a question time for the public. In accordance with the City's meeting, information sessions and decision-making processes, council policy, public question time will be allocated a minimum of 15 minutes. I do request that members of the public asking questions limit the amount of preamble to their questions. I will otherwise ask you to put the question. Tonight we have received one request for public question time, and we have Mr. Grant Adams. Mr. Adams, if you'd like to come to the front, if you could, for the record, state your name and where you are from.
That how that works? Yes, Grant Adams. I'm at 19 Estuary View Drive in Wannerup, and my issue stems from the Wannerup wetlands, but I'm here today to make the complaint about the public service ratepayers like myself get with the City of Busselton. Public service, they're all very polite.
Sorry, Mr. Adams, We'll explain something. This is questions of council, so it's your opportunity at this moment to ask a question of the council. But we have cast session, so you at any time can come along to the community access session and speak to council. You'll be given 5 minutes to actually present to council.
So my question is, why are ratepayers treated so badly by the City of Busselton?
Okay,
I could give an example.
I think if you, give us an example.
I rang yesterday with a serious health issue pertaining to toxic fumes emanating in my neighbourhood. So I rang the City of Busselton and they politely referred me to the health department. I spoke to the person in the health department and they said, it's got nothing to do with us. If you're sick, go to the doctor. Which I was shocked that that would be a response. So I then followed up with, this toxic stench emanates from the Wannerup Estuary. Oh, Wannerup Estuary? Sorry, Mr. Adams, that has nothing to do with us. You need to speak to DWER. So you ring DWER, DWER say nothing to do with us. You must speak to Watercorp. I rang Watercorp. It's got nothing to do with us. Please speak to Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions. I've done all that and I keep getting this run round. So I rang, I made 40 phone calls this week and I found there is actually a VAS Wannerup Wetlands Task Force.
Yes.
which has 2 members on it. I was actually found out that the person who was speaking to me at the Shire was one of those task force members, and their response was, it's got nothing to do with them, ring Dwyer.
Okay.
Surely the member on the task force should say something like, yes, we validate you, we consider your opinion, we have a meeting on Friday, we will bring it up then and give you a response.
Okay. I think we get the general feel for that. Mr. CEO, who would...
I think I have enough information from the commentary from Mr Adams. We'll take the question on notice and we'll provide a response in writing.
Sure. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you very much.
Thank
Can
you.
I please make a comment that I did respond back
Yes, sure.
to Mr Adams, and I did say that I would take it up at the VAS task force on Friday. I am one of those members.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Can I just finish by saying I have sent a few emails to various councillors, and I would certainly thank them for their prompt and informative reply on a number of issues. So thank you, Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr Adams. Okay. Do we have any more questions for the public? We do. Mr Sims, if you'd like to come forward.
Keith Sims, Busselton. Good evening, councillors, CEO and staff. My comments tonight, questions tonight, is regarding the item 15.2, Welga electoral reform and the officer recommendation. Point 2, 4-year term, all in, all out. I agree there's an extra cost for election every 2 years instead of 4, but I do not agree about voter fatigue. Walga previously asked councils re the mayor being elected for a 4-year term by the community or reinstate that the councillors elect the mayor from their peers and the council elected to do the latter. So my question is, what other than less costs will be achieved if you decide to go to a 4-year term? Or decide your recommendation to be a 4-year term election?
Thank you for the question, Mr Sims. In relation to the commentary, which was your preamble to the question, the legislation's now changed that level 1 and 2 local governments, mayors are now elected at large and not from within. So there's been a change to the situation than when the city first moved from election within to election at large. So that's a change to the legislation. So the city doesn't have the option to go back to that situation. You'll note that in the resolution or the recommendation there are 2 separate resolutions because I don't think it's appropriate for either myself or the staff to be making recommendations to the council on what's the most appropriate because they're the ones that are elected. We're not. In terms of the options and issues, the one thing that from my experience that a 4-year term might provide is a greater degree of focus for a period with 4 years before you have the next election. So instead of having every 2 years, you can have a fairly significant shift in the direction and approach of the council. You would have a period of 4 years for folks. 4 years also lines up with the corporate or the council reporting regime. So that's probably 2 issues that I'd flag in terms of matters that you can take to account as supporting the 4-year regime. But at the end of the day, it's a determination of the council and the community.
Okay, thank you. In my time, second question, in my time coming into this chamber, I have observed that all the first-time councillors take some time to come up to speed with council operations. And that's not a criticism, that's just a fact. Question 2, what would you do if all 9 councillors were new to the position with a 4-year term? That scenario would be untenable. Probably unlikely, but would be untenable.
It's a sort of an open question you're asking, and the study I've done shows that on average 50% or you have a 50% chance of getting re-elected if you are sitting on council. And if you look at the past 10, 15 years, I think that's been quite proven. So if you're doing a good job, generally the community vote you back on. If you're all doing a bad job, then that's the community's opportunity to, very much like probably we've seen with the Liberals. If people don't think you're doing a good job, yes, they do change. But I understand it would take time to get up to speed, but also that probably occurs when councils have been spilled recently in Netherlands, in Port Hedland and others. And so it is a situation where it is, I would say, the duty of the CEO to make sure that he brings those members up to speed as quickly as possible. But it's an open question, I believe.
But obviously it does take time for anybody if they haven't been involved in council before.
Yep.
The third question.
And also, I'll just note, you could vote a mayor in who's never been on council before, and they can get voted in.
Well, that just proves my point.
Yeah, yeah.
Question 3. Why don't you recommend to Walga and the state government that any community member who wants to be a councillor has to complete and pass a certificate training course on local government prior to nominating for the first time?
I'll leave that one to you.
Thank you for the question, Mr Sims. It's a part of a conversation that has been within the sector in perhaps the last decade. Prospective council members are encouraged to go to sessions before they nominate, so they understand some of the requirements and time allocation that they would have to make in the event that they're elected. And I know that most local governments now conduct those. Most local governments conduct induction programs, and outside of my role with this city, I've conducted those for a number of local governments, but that's once they're elected. There hasn't been a formal move in a legislative sense to require what you're suggesting by any state government in recent times, but it has been part of a conversation. But it's no different to the state parliament where once you're elected, you have to go through a formal training process, as the 3 new councillors here do. In the first 12 months, they've got to complete certain courses, mandatory, as part of their process of becoming an elected member.
So there's a time period on that.
There is 1 year.
Training, isn't it? 1 year.
Yep.
So for the first year, there's still...
I'm not going to get into debates. Question of council, please.
That's why I suggest to have that training before they nominate, and then they may appreciate what's involved and may not even...
Can I just make a comment with regard to that for Mr Sims? Training to do with local government is very expensive. So if you were required to do that training prior to nominating, it might preclude some people in the community from being able to nominate because they couldn't afford to do the training because it is very expensive.
Sure.
So I'll just let you know, the modules, the individual modules are very expensive, and doing a whole diploma is quite expensive.
Thank you.
So,
Sorry, through the chair.
We've got 4.5 minutes left of
through the chair.
question time.
Keith, the inductions, other than myself, because I was tied up, the inductions were done within 3 weeks for the rest of the councillors, and I'm catching up on all mine now. I've only got a couple to go now. So although it can be up to 12 months, so basically the other 2 new councillors, I got through most of mine, but the other new councillors got through theirs. So I think it was in the first two or 3 weeks. So it's not an ongoing process.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Thank you. Cheers. Are there any further questions? If you'd like to come forward, your name and where you're from. Thank you. Yep, that's it.
My name's Danica Kay and I live on 26 Falcon Drive, and I've got 2 questions today. So the first one is, I understand the city's resources are limited, but what would it roughly cost to just trial a small advisory group for a year?
Mr Whitehall.
Look, I think I'm probably going to have to take that question on notice and get back to you.
Sure. Thank you. And second question?
Second question, could this be trialled and reviewed at the next review of committees instead of being dismissed completely?
Like you're being planted here.
Answer, yes, it could, if the council so decided.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question. Do we have any more questions? Please come forward. I think there's going to be a similar theme.
Hello, I'm Billy Evans, West Busselton. If young people are already engaged informally, wouldn't a formal structure help show that the council genuinely values the voices of its youth?
Mr. CEO, who would you like to direct that to? Or a councillor?
Yes, it could.
Okay.
Simple answer, yes, it could.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question. Are there any further questions? Being no further questions, I will move on to item 6.11, which is to receive the petition for the closure of about the closure of Northerly Street. I don't think it is a petition to close Northerly Street. Do I have a mover to receive this item? Councillor Ryan, seconded Councillor Mueller. Is there any opposition? Being no opposition, I will stop at one point. If you'll notice in red, we have made some small changes, and I will just go back to the mover. Are you happy with those changes? That a petition with approximately 600 signatures, of which approximately 300 are verified electors. Are you happy with that? Is the seconder happy? Thank you. Therefore, is there any opposition? Being no opposition, I put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried 9-0. Thank you. Now move on to item 8.1, that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 25th of February 2026 be confirmed as a true and correct record. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Mueller, seconded Councillor Kennedy. Is there any opposition? Being no opposition, I put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried 9-0. Item 11.1, the management of complaints of alleged breaches of behaviour policy. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Kennedy, seconded Councillor Adams. Is there any opposition? Being no opposition, I put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried 9-0. Item 14.1 is the Business Development Events and Marketing Programme, BDEMP outcomes for February 2026, requiring an absolute majority. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Cox, seconded Councillor Mueller. Is there any opposition? There is opposition. Councillor Cox, do you wish to put the motion?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. To speak to the motion? Or as written? Are you asking me to speak to the motion?
You can speak to the motion if you wish, yes.
Thank you. I think the report's fairly self-explanatory. We are just endorsing funding below towards the following named economic outcomes, economic development outcomes as outlined in the report. I think it's fairly self-explanatory and I support the officer recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mueller, do you wish to speak?
Sorry, I'll reserve my right, thanks.
Reserved your right. Thank you. Is opposition? Councillor McNeish.
Thanks, sir. Yes, I would like, I speak against because I think this needs a little more consideration in that if the industrial and commercial people who are funding with the levy, I'm going to call it levy, but the differential rate, are going to be happy to continue doing this to the tune of the 10%, then sure, there's money to give away into the future. But if we survey those people, those ratepayers, and we are thinking through the long-term financial plan that rates will be going up and this is an additional 10%. And the commercial people, ratepayers, are annoyed. Well, I can put it slightly like that. Well, I don't see that we can make longer-term projections on the use of those monies with certainty. So, admittedly, this is a signature event, and I understand they're looking for as much certainty and as much money to fund their festival for as long as they can. But I think it's contingent upon us to have a look at issues like the saltwater booking. We need to maximise that. So when saltwater is available to be booked for this annual event, I would like to think that this event maximises the saltwater's potential, and we need as much revenue for the saltwater as we can get. So involving the in-kind, which is a misnomer to me, because we need to double entry account, and all the money that is in-kind given needs to be zero. The money is given and the full rate is paid. So the double entry accounting, money given, 20, 30, 40 grand, whatever it is, and the full rate paid for the facility. So that needs to be assessed and put in here as well. And of the 175, I'm proposing that none of it goes towards giveaways, because elected members are elected by the community to determine where the money goes, not unelected boards or controllers of events. So these matters aren't addressed in this item, and I therefore foreshadow an alternative that picks up on those four matters. And that's what's been emailed to you. Let me just go through it quickly for the benefit of anyone.
Sorry, Councillor McNeish, I've just got a point of clarification, if I may, because in the report, unless I've read it wrong, the funding request, is that 160 plus 20 in kind, or is any of that in kind? Not this time. Sorry, I've read the report wrong. I apologise.
And that's good.
Sure.
That's a good thing.
Sure.
But, you know, if we are hoping that this event maximises the saltwater facility and all the different rooms for different projections and gatherings and all the rest of it, then that might, at our charge rate, might be 40 grand. So therefore, that would need to be injected into the funding consideration. Just clarify the 4 points. One is for the 175 to be used, but none of it as prizes to give away money. There's zero in-kind support. It's got to be double entry accounting. Future funding arrangements will be considered for the Cinefest dollars when the saltwater is commissioned. And the fourth point is a survey to be sent to contributing ratepayers, commercial and industrial, with their 2026 and 2027 rate notices, asking them to respond, indicating their level of support or otherwise for the continuation of and the quantum of the 10% differential rate for event promotion marketing. So we can get some feedback from those people who pay that not insignificant amount of money. So that's my alternative. So that's why I'm voting against the officer recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker 4. Councillor Love.
I'm just going to address some of the concerns. So this is recommended for 5 years. I do agree that it is a bit of a tie down. I had some of my own concerns with it being for 5 years, but we generally had done a 3-year agreement with our hallmark events. And this is so that the hallmark events have a bit of certainty towards their own budgeting, what's going to be happening for the next 3 to 5 years, because then they are able to leverage other funding from state and federal government themselves. As we are quite all aware, usually it's third for fundings. And then it also just actually allows them that certainty to plan their events as well. I do want to also note that even in future use, if they do indeed, we had I sit on the Business Development Events and Marketing Program group, and we had a presentation by Sinfest that they will continue to try and spread out the love across all venues, even once saltwater is unlocked, and that we were reassured by our officers that the reasoning behind not allowing any in-kind contributions is exactly as Councillor McNish noted, for the double entering, so that we can see what of our venues are being utilised and how much money we are actually receiving from them in regards to saltwater, Underluck Room and any other venues that they may use in their future use. I highly urge all councillors to support this motion. I know that we do face a bit of criticism about these type of events. However, this event falls in October, I believe, which is our off-season peak. It brings in an estimated, I think it was 3,500 visitors outside of the region. And the economic benefit brought into the community is quite large, especially given, like, I would understand the pushback more so if it was on our shoulder seasons of November or February, where we are pretty well utilised by tourism already throughout summer. But this is a boost to our businesses during those winter months when they struggle to get the economic injection. And it's not until we've had events like Sinfest and Cabin Fever that we've actually seen these businesses get out of the struggle. Like, I know myself growing up here, if you didn't have a job on the lead up for the summer Christmas, there was no hope you were going to get a job in winter. But that's actually starting to change for people. People are able to get employed by the hospitality and tourism industries because we have these events on the off-shoulder season peak. And yeah, that's why I would really urge all councillors to support the officer's recommendation, or the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Love. Speaker against? Speaker for? Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you. I'll be speaking for, mainly because it aligns with the policy that we have on this, and just to address some of the points raised in the foreshadowed alternative that may be before us after this one. I feel all of those points in that next one, you would address them in the policy, not so much specifically here. So just to touch on them, so the motion at the moment, it ticks all the boxes in the policy. But if we have a look at the alternative, I'm not sure about the prizes and giveaways, but if you don't want that in events, you put that into the policy. Number 2, zero in-kind support. Well, there is zero in-kind support here, and the report does speak on that. It says it's easier to just work it out in cash rather than do trickier in-kind ones. And then number 3 is pretty similar. And sending out a survey to ratepayers, I'm not convinced that it would be that effective. I feel you want community input, you do that at the time of the policy. So how do you want events in our policy to look like? And then that would apply to all of the events that we assess on the criteria. So that is my reasons for speaking for this motion before us. Thank you,
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Speaker against? Councillor Ryan.
Thank you. I did struggle with this during the BDEMP meeting, and I thank Councillor McNish for these salient issues. Councillor McNish is quite right. We decide where the money should be spent, and I did struggle with, I think it's $10,000 going as prize money that is doled out by Cinefest Oz. I did ask during the meeting how much the state gives Cinefest Oz, and we were told it's in confidence. So that's a little bit disappointing. And I'm mindful of some of the comments that the CEO made today on our spending, on incidental or things that may not be giving us the best rewards. I think that's why point number 4 comes into, and I'll just correct you, Councillor Kennedy, a survey to be sent to the contributing ratepayers, commercial and industrial. Not all ratepayers, because I don't believe that a lot of businesses know that they pay this extra 10%. And a lot of those businesses are struggling. I think if they would find out that their money is being spent this way, they would have conniptions. And all businesses may not be getting the spin-off of Cinefest. You know, if you're a widget maker in the industrial area, you're still paying the 10%, but your widgets aren't going up on that particular week. Saltwater has changed the landscape. It's changed the way that we need to do business, and I think Cinefest Oz should be using this facility, and if we're going to give them money, they should be returning it to us in kind from them. And so we need to look at that as well. Yeah, I commend you, Councillor McNish, for this alternate.
Speaker 4.
May I have a point of clarity
Point
on
of clarification.
point of clarification on Councillor Ryan's commentary made?
You can ask if you
I
want.
think you said, I didn't want to interrupt, so I waited. I think you were saying something about,
Through the chair,
about from this money being awarded, that 10,000 was awarded in film prizes. I don't recall reading that in the report or when we got briefed by the organisation, so I was just wondering if you could
Councillor Ryan,
clarify
I'll
that.
take from the officers, if I will,
Well, the
the
question was
answer.
asked of me, Mr Mayor.
You can't ask direction.
No.
Yeah. So I will ask for the answer. Yes. So has that, whoever wrote the report, would you like to respond, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't recall the 10,000 prize money specifically being discussed at the presentation by Cinefest Oz. It isn't in the report, and they are funded by another sponsor, not the city. The city's agreement for funding clearly outlines what we fund Cinefest Oz to provide, and it's centred around use of local venues, community that work with the schools on the school prize, and free community events, and increasing visitation in that shoulder period, which is actually end of August, early September.
I think we're
now.
probably
Yeah.
going beyond my question
Yep.
now, but thank you. So does that answer your question? Thank you. Thank you. Speaker 4. Councillor Dyson.
Through the chair, I agree with many of Councillor Ryan's points for the 10% that we charge, but that's a different issue altogether. The BDM, if you look at this, they spent $844,000 in the community, and for this one point, I think that we should support it.
Thank you. Speaker against? Speaker 4. Councillor Mueller, you have reserved your right.
Yeah, I have nothing further to add. Thanks,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor.
Councillor Cox, your right of reply.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We decide where the money should be spent. Well, we have decided that in this report and through the BDEMP that this money was to be, if endorsed by council, allocated to Cinefest Oz. So we are deciding where it's spent. The $10,000, I don't recall that being mentioned anywhere either. But it is a film prize, that's the whole point of this event. So at some point, someone is funding the actual film prize, which is what attracts the films here in the first place, and that's what underpins the entire event. Incidental spending was mentioned by Councillor Ryan, value for money, $12 million throughout the southwest from this event, 150 volunteers who love this event, who are involved year on year in this event, $5.7 million direct economic impact to the city of Busselton. I would say that that's fairly good bang for your buck. Saltwater has changed the landscape and they should be using it. Well, if it is commissioned in time this year, I'm sure they will. And I'm sure that they will be utilised. I'm sure that they're very excited to utilise this venue in the future for this event, and I'm sure that it will be very successful and successfully patronised in the saltwater. I think that's probably all. With regard to the differential rate mentioned by Councillor McNish, the economic stimulus that the differential rate provides is of substantial benefit to the residents and ratepayers of the city. Probably doesn't really matter what business you're involved in, because you may have a child that works in hospitality in the CBD. I'm sure if it doesn't directly affect your business, there will be an ongoing effect to someone in your family or somebody that you know that works in hospitality, that works in some kind of area, catering, the off-spins that come from films that are made here and people that work in set design. And I was at a pottery class the other day, and a girl in my pottery class does location. She lives in the city of Busselton. She scouts locations for films. So there's so many offshoots that this event brings to the city that I don't think that can be quantified by simply saying, well, do the businesses in the LIA want to pay an additional 10%? I think it's a much, much bigger issue than that, and I think that should be considered. So I would urge you to support the officer recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Therefore, I put the item 14.1 to the vote. All those in favour? Mayor Cronin, Councillor Cox, Councillor Mueller, Councillor Love, Councillor Dykstra, Councillor Adams and Councillor Kennedy. Those against, Councillor McNish and Councillor Ryan. The motion is carried 7-2. Thank you. Item 15.1, Code of Conduct of Council Members, Committee Members and Candidates. The officer recommendation that Council adopt the updated City of Busselton Code of Conduct, Council Members, Committee Members and Candidates. Attachment 1. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Adams. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mueller. Is there any opposition? Being no opposition, I put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried 9-0, absolute majority. Item 15.2, which has been pulled by myself, the Walga sector consultation electoral reform. Do I have a seconder? I'll move it. Seconded, Councillor Cox. Is there any opposition? There being opposition, I will put the motion. Okay. I won't go too much on this because I believe it's sort of a conscience vote by all accounts. But the reasons that I'll be putting this forward from my experience, in both federal and state, we have compulsory voting, so that therefore to maintain that continuity, I believe it is a good reason to move forward in that section. And I said this is just something that is going to go to Walga for their overall opinion from all 139 councils. So this is just our input. With regards to the term of office, and I think it was raised today in question time about the time that it does take councillors to get up to speed, and as I've mentioned in my reasons in my motion here, is that from my experience, and two councillors here that have the longest experience, I believe, or the current longest experience, 6.5 years, is that we do tend to see, we take a number of months to get up to speed working with council, We also see the issues that the stopping of business as usual, because we are all going through these training sessions, the induction sessions, IT are setting up computers, there's new, just teaching people where everything is and where the car parks are, etc. Also, we go through that scenario where each year the elections cost us around $200,000. So therefore, in theory, if we're not having that every year, we'll be saving on approximately $50,000 a year. And also, as I've said, statistically, I've looked up the results. Used to be 46% of sitting members will get voted back on. Actually, those figures are increasing. So the actual latest figures are closer to 50%. So therefore, the concerns I had was, yes, as raised by a member of the public, was that we might suddenly have 9 new councillors, but that would seem extremely unlikely, and I think past history has explained that to us. And also, it aligns, as I said, with the long-term plans. It also, the fatigue we do hear of when we're all out of sync, where you've got your 4-year elections, your 3-year elections for state and federal, and then suddenly we're out by 2, and then another 2, and then people are going, oh my God, not again, we're voting again. So if we want to see democracy working at its best, and we want to see as many people as possible getting up and voting, then that is the reason that I put this forward. So I would ask that you vote this way, but you all have your own ideas. Thank you. Councillor, sorry, who seconded that? I forget now. Councillor Cox, please.
I'll reserve my right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Speaker against? Councillor Mueller.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm going to speak against this one. There's a few things that have been raised that I don't particularly agree with, and I think one of the last points that the Mayor just made in terms of fatiguing people. I don't think fatiguing people with elections is the reason that people in this community aren't voting in the local government elections. So I don't think that actually serves to solve the problem. Yeah, and I don't think forcing people to vote isn't going to equate to community involvement or buy-in. We heard during the Meet the Candidates at the last election that, how do people ask the question, how can council get the community more involved, particularly in relation to elections? And I don't think forcing people to do that is really going to get that buy-in. If it's not intrinsic, if they're being forced to do it, it kind of defeats the point. I think in terms of the 4-year everyone in, everyone out, at the moment, we do half the council. We get, every 2 years, we get the top 4 people. So the people that have got the most votes, and in theory, they're the most representative people in any particular election. If we go to 8, we're getting the top 4 still, but now we're getting the next least bad 4. There is also the potential that there might be less than 8 people in any particular election, which, it would have to remain to be seen what would happen in that circumstance. So we're going to end up with 2 elections, and if cost is an issue, then perhaps that needs to be considered. Also, in regards to the training, which we've heard, we heard a member of the community just this evening talk about having people brought up to speed and the training that would be good. We decided, this exact council decided, that we would sit experienced members next to inexperienced members at the start of this cycle in order to share the experience. We put that at risk. To me, that says that this council believes there's value in having existing members on, and we risk losing that if we have all, completely 9 new people. So, whilst it might be statistically unlikely, it's certainly a possibility, and nothing's for sure. So yeah, I guess I would like to foreshadow an alternative, which is just the opposite of this. So it would be that.
Or you could vote against it. Sorry.
Yeah. Well. To vote. Yeah. So should you vote against this, that the council does not support compulsory voting. And for the terms of office, that or where is it? Let me just read it exactly how it says. So it says, terms of office, council supports the advocacy position that the sector supports, I'd say, or with a 2-year spill. So to go to the 2-year spill. So the opposite of what's there. So that's my foreshadowed alternative.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Councillor Wheeler.
May,
Speaker 4,
may I ask a question? So
point of clarification.
Of you. Would you consider splitting number 1 and number 2?
Yeah, I do apologise. My intention was to do that, but I think it's probably too late now, isn't it? Can I still do that?
You can split it before the vote.
Is that okay? So when I actually come to the vote, I'll split it. Okay, sorry. When we come to the vote, I'll put 15.21 and then 15.2 forward for vote.
Well, I would like to support 1, but not 2. So if I'm standing to speak,
You would be
for or against?
So we almost need an alternate. Sorry, would we have an alternate?
If you could
The
ma- if you could-
opposite would
if-
be
if you
we
could-
vote for it, and if it so if it fails, it would be the opposite. Can we do that?
Can he just speak to it?
Well, no, I'm saying if it doesn't pass, if we don't. Sorry, I'm going to seek advice to explain it better. Sorry, Mr. CEO.
If I understand Councillor McNish correctly, he's wanting to support 1 and not support 2.
What I'm thinking, though, is if, let's just say, point 1 lost, what would the alternate be?
You could split,
That's what I'm
ask
saying.
the council authority the seconder to agree to split the motion now. So you do 15.11 and then 15.12. Then the individuals can speak to 15.11 and 15.12. So if Councillor Cox, I think, was the seconder, agrees to split it now, and that will make it less complicated and a bit easier for people at home to understand what you're doing.
Yeah, she's reserved the right, so.
I agree.
Sure, okay. Therefore, we will initially just debate on item 1.
and I'm speaking
And
for
I'm
the
happy
motion.
not to speak any further.
And I'm speaking for the motion.
Sure,
Item 1.
item 1.
I might be showing my age, but my corporate values, I guess, were established in the, in the 80s, and one of those was that governments intervene when markets fail. So I think the market effectively has failed when you only get 31% of the voters voting. I think that's a failure. So we had a lot of young men die a lot of years ago to be able to express, be free to vote, and I think the market has failed and it's time we institute compulsory voting. So I support part 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a speaker against part 1? Councillor Adams.
I'd like to speak against that motion. I think that if you make it compulsory, you'll just get a lot of people just coming in and drawing different pictures on different things that they probably shouldn't. And I think if someone's concerned about the city of Busselton, they will come and vote.
Thank you. Speaker for part 1. Speaker against part 1. Councillor Cox, your right of, sorry, you've reserved your right.
I'll just rise to speak quickly for this 4.1. I actually agree with Councillor McNish. I think if you only can engage 30% on average, year on year on year, and it doesn't seem to be increasing, I think compelling people to get involved in the local government process is quite important, and particularly in terms of state and federal governments now trying to disregard and overrule local government. I think it's really important for our local community, however they're compelled to be involved in local government, because otherwise the way it's heading is state and federal governments will try to eliminate local government, and we're the ones that are closest to the community, and all the decision making will be centralised and we'll lose that control. And if we don't have the community behind us, I think that's problematic. So I would encourage I know that we may get people drawing interesting pictures on ballots, but at least they're coming and they're reading the ballot. Well, in some cases, maybe not, but they might read the first few names. And I think that, yeah, I think it's a good idea to have compulsory voting. I have in the past been against it, but I have since changed my mind. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said, I won't actually leave this to conscious vote, so I'm not going to have any rebuttal. So, councillors, I therefore put part 1, and should that fail, we'll go to Councillor Muller's
Sorry,
alternate.
just before we vote, was there an alternative by Councillor Ryan on this?
Well, she has the opportunity to, no, so that's right. So,
amendment, when does that come in after we?
That would be up to Councillor Ryan to bring up, not yourself. So.
Okay.
Thank you. Cheers. Okay. Therefore, I put the motion part 1. All those in favour? That's Mayor Cronin, Councillor Cox, Councillor Love, Councillor McNeish, Councillor Ryan and Councillor Kennedy. Those against, Councillor Mueller, Councillor Dykstra and Councillor Adams, the new councillors. Okay, the motion is carried 6-3. Part 1 is carried 6-3, that the council supports the advocacy position that the sector supports compulsory voting for local government elections. I now move on to part 2. I have already spoken, so I will not. Councillor Cox, do you wish to speak?
I'll reserve my right at this time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I know it's a bit, but we're okay, are we? We're slightly going off. Sure, brilliant, thank you. Do I have any all right, so we've got a seconder and a mover. Is there any opposition? There is opposition, therefore, I think we've already gone through this. So, a speaker against. Councillor McNeish.
I speak against. Initially, I was not going to, but I've been swayed by Councillor Mueller. No, he made some very good points, and I'm not sure I can add much to that. It made a lot of sense. Look, and I was going to say that the world changes very quickly these days. And then I thought, well, that supports the all in, all out, but it actually doesn't. So if you want change after 2 years, well, then you get yourself to the ballot box and you vote, because that's only 2 years, not 4 years. So we are in a very fast-moving world, and a 2-year option is good to respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker 4, Councillor Ryan.
I'm speaking for, and I would also like to move an amendment, but I'll speak for this at the minute. This is probably one of the biggest issues we'll face, and we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. But I believe that the state government is going to do what they want to do anyway, so we're probably just wasting words. I've seen several iterations of voting systems in my nearly 11 years on council, Mr. Mayor, and they've all been different. We just toyed around with a poor cousin of government. And in relation to what Mr. Sims' question was earlier, what would happen if all 9 elected members were new for the all-in, all-out system? Well, think state and federal government. Every 4 years, we have an election. And sometimes you get the Liberals out, and then sometimes you get Labor in. So what does happen in that situation? Look around the room, you've got staff that are still running the show. They're basically in caretaker mode, and then the new council comes in and decides what it does and doesn't want. Yes, there are pros, there are cons to both sides of it, and I completely agree with Councillor McNish's sentiments. Yes, we are elected for a 4-year term, and I'm doing myself a disservice because I'm elected till 2029. However, I believe this is the bigger picture. This is the better system. When I go and do my lobbying at election times, the confusion is rampant. Where do we vote? How do we vote? Why do we vote? Is it compulsory? And I always say, yes, of course, tongue in cheek. And for that reason, I think that the all in, all out, and I've just done a check, New South Wales is all in, all out, Victoria, South Australia, Tasmania, ACT, Northern Territory. And I believe we're the only state now. That could be wrong because that was AI, so, you know, blame it, not me. So, yeah, I think that this is the better way to go. But then yesterday I was thinking, well, if we're going to go to this system, then surely we have to have a fair system. And hence my amendment to request that the CEO requests the state government to consider that in relation to local government elections, in-person voting be adopted and absentee voting be adopted. And my rationale for that is because it mimics that of state and federal elections. It takes the confusion out of it for just about everybody. Now, I'm not beholden to it. I just thought that it would make more sense to be more in line with other elections, and it has nothing to do with Walga. We're not writing to Walga. We're going to write to the government and say, hey, we've come up with a great idea or a really bad idea, whichever way you decide to go. And yeah, let's suck it and see. If you consider that there are 139 local governments generally having elections at the same time, and I'm in Port Hedland on holidays because there's a lot of people that go up north during election times, then surely I can go into my local, go into the nearest council office and vote, and it all gets sent to the same Australia Post. So that's my rationale. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against?
And
You can speak.
since it's been split, can I have another quick go?
Yeah, have another quick.
Thank you. Only because there's a few things I heard said that I don't disagree, that I disagree with further. But so I kind of, well, I guess sort of, that's what debate is, I suppose, along the way. But the this isn't state politics, right? That's partisan politics, it's two parties. I don't think it's relevant. This is a different kind of representative democracy where we vote for individuals, not for parties. And in state politics, parties get to decide who sits in any given seat. So that you're voting for the party, not necessarily the person. So I'm not sure that analogy really quite stands up. And I might just quickly point out that there was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Councillor Ryan, call a point of order if I misspeak, but last week you said that we shouldn't vote on what's best for other LGAs and only what's best for Busselton. But, you know, then no, is that incorrect? I'll track that statement in. I'll track that. That's how I remember it, but maybe I'm wrong. There, Sorry, my apologies. And then just on what Councillor McNish was saying, like, so 4 years can give stability to a council in that you have 4 years where you can set direction, you can stay the course for 4 years. But the world does change really quick, and if the community decides that they want their leaders to stay the course, then they can vote them back in again after 2 years if they want, if they want to keep them back in, or they can decide that they want new leadership, in which case they can elect new people in. So it gives the community the flexibility every 2 years to decide who they want and set the course for council, not councillors just having this ultimate control of being able to set the course for 4 years, and the community gets no say during that 4 years as to who else gets involved. And that's the only other things I had to add. Thanks.
Thank you. Speaker 4, Councillor Love.
Firstly, I concur with quite a number of points that Councillor Ryan raised during her debate. but I would like to address that. Not necessarily everyone votes for party. I know personally I voted for local members based off of their own backing, not necessarily because they're the party that I align with. So I disagree with that, Councillor Muir. And it's been raised a number of times, what if none of the council gets back in? What if every councillor goes to rerun and they don't get back in and we lose that wealth of knowledge? Well, I would put it to the council that if that does occur, our community is sending us a very loud message that they don't want us back in. That allows the community to do a full sweep, and if they're really upset with the council, gives them a chance to get a new council. So that's a democratic process. Happens in state and federal, and you always run that risk that, okay, for the next 6 months, a year, potentially the council's going a bit blind and they're just taking advice from the administration and they're learning on the fly. But that's a risk that you take, and that gives that opportunity to our community. We're very lucky in Australia that we get that right to vote. As Councillor McNish said, a lot of people died for us to have this right to vote and a right to give that freedom of choice. And I've got to stay optimistic that people won't just do donkey votes and people will do the right thing. But, you know, it's the world we live in. People sometimes do the right and the wrong. But I urge all councillors to support a 4-year term on an all-in, all-out basis, because I do believe it will reduce costs. It will ensure that we have a bit more of a firmer strategic direction for the next 4 years, rather than stopping and starting for caretaker period and then having to get councillors up to like the same level of understanding how everything feeds into each other before we can then proceed and go ahead with the next projects. It makes sense to me, and that's why I urge all councillors to support this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker against? Speaker for? Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Number one, I don't know why we're debating all this, because I do believe, as in Councillor Ryan said, the government will do what they do, but I want to have a chat to you, so here I am. We are damned if we do and damned if we don't. There's certainly arguments both ways, but I disagree with Councillor Mueller, because I think after our last one, which we were on, I think we started off with 19 nominees. We ended up with one pulled out thing, so we ended up with 18. So I don't think, when you saw the people that missed out, I don't think we'd have a talented 4 and 4 lesser lights. I think even in that last one, if that was all in, all out, you'd have some of the other councillors, and they'd be there as well. You'd have got some very, very good councillors out of that. There was that many good candidates, and I don't think that will change. The other reason I think the 4-year thing is that, like Mr Sims said, when a new council comes in, he takes a while to get about 6 months. Keith, I'm pretty sure it's going to be 2.5 years with me, mate, but I'm getting there. And I think, so you've got 2-year terms, and 6 months of that, you've got 2 or 3 people learning their trade. So you've probably got 18 months of the 2 years where you're fully functional, and the other 6 months, you're rolling people in to get them right up to speed. Well, I'm a bit slower than most, but let's say 3 or 4 months where you've still got a certain percentage of your term is just in caretaker mode. I don't think that's right.
Thank you. Thank you. Speaker against? Speaker for? Councillor Cox, you've reserved your right.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll just rise to speak briefly. I actually agree with a lot of what Councillor Ryan said. I think, and I'm going to speak from experience here, having been through 3 elections, elections every 2 years are really, really distracting for council, and they're really unsettling for council. So the 6 months before, or even a year before an election, people are jostling for position, politicking starts, shenanigans start occurring, and it's very distracting, and it doesn't benefit the community, because councillors don't necessarily, even councillors who are not up for re-election or election, are not really thinking, they've got that in the back of their mind all the time. So it's very distracting, and I don't think it does the community any favours. It's expensive. So it's nearly $200,000 every 2 years. I mean, that's a big saving if we go to once every 4 years. That's a big saving for our community. We can put that money into something else. And staff resources. staff get tired. Staff have to do a lot of work around elections. So I think it's saving on resourcing. And this is something a few years ago I probably would have disagreed with, and I probably would have said every 2 years is good, but I've actually changed my mind, having been through the process. I agree with Councillor Cronin. It's very unlikely that you would get 9 new councillors. I mean, look at the last election. We had 3 members going up for re-election, and 2 out of those 3 were re-elected. And I think that if you go back and look at previous elections, you'll see a pattern of councillors who are getting re-elected. Some maybe not, but quite a few do. So I think it's very unlikely that you're going to get a whole new council. And it does take councillors a while to get up to speed. And I think if you've got 4 years to work together with people, and Councillor McNish will probably disagree with me that it's teamwork, but to a degree it is teamwork, and learning how to work with people and how to debate against people is a vital tool, and it gives you 4 years to do that. And if things change, and things do change, and people get sick or something happens in their personal circumstances, then you can have an election within that 4 year period. It is going to cost you money, but it is possible to do. So you can actually account for circumstances that arise where people can't commit to that 4 years. So I actually think that the 4 years is a positive thing. And the other thing that Councillor Ryan raised, which I think is really interesting, is the absentee voting. And the amount of people that have asked me who live in Perth, who are ratepayers here, oh, I'm going to vote in the election, and they've missed the registration date. And they don't actually realise that they have to register prior to voting. If they could just be an absentee vote, people would be very, very, because they want to vote, they want to participate, quite often more than the people that actually live here all the time. But often they miss out because they just don't realise that quite a few months before the actual election they have to register. So if there was a form, I'm not sure about the in-person voting, but definitely the absentee voting I would definitely be in favour of. So I urge you to support the recommendation. Thank you. And possibly with some of Councillor Ryan's amendment. Thank you.
The amendments didn't get
Foreshadowing.
put.
Oh, you didn't.
So
Councillor Ryan didn't foreshadow.
Oh, foreshadowing, should this fail? Yes. Okay, thank you. Sure. Okay, rebuttal. Again, I was going to keep it quick. There was only a couple of things, and I had to address one thing that Councillor Mueller said, the least bad for. I understand sort of where he's going from, and this was discussed a while ago, and I've been thinking about it, but maybe you'll get the top 4 councillors that have done a good job, and they've got 4 years' experience, and then you'll get another 4 or 5 that are the newbies who are coming in, and they're nice and experienced. So there's hope there. Look, I think everything else has been sort of said. Saving costs. I'm going to add new information, but also caretaker mode, 6 weeks of issues there as well. So therefore, I would commend that you vote for item 2 as written. All in, all out. Thank you. Therefore, I put forward the motion, or the part 2 of the motion in front of us. All those in favour? That's Mayor Cronin, Councillor Cox, Councillor Love, Councillor Dykstra, Councillor Ryan, Councillor Adams and Councillor Kennedy. Those against, Councillor Mueller and Councillor McNish. The motion, that part of the motion is carried 8-2. Therefore, the motion is carried, the full motion is carried as was originally written. That is correct. Thank you. I now move on to item 16.1.
The amendment, Mr Mayor? My amendment.
We've voted.
Didn't you? I said I'd foreshadowed it.
Yeah, if foreshadowed, so if that were to fail, then we would have gone to your foreshadowed alternate. We can bring it up later, or we can advocate or write. Okay, item 16.1 is the Alga National General Assembly 2026 attendance, and I will make a small amendment Item E, point E, to include councillor McNeish. I'll move the motion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Adams?
Can I have a point of clarification?
You may.
Now that councillor McNeish has been added, does this item also need to look at moving the ordinary council meeting that I believe lands on the 23rd of June 2026, as there wouldn't be...
Yes.
Sorry, I beg my pardon, I thought I saw the deputy mayor on there too. I wasn't too sure if we would have a quorum.
Sure.
Asked and answered.
Answered. Thank you. Councillor Minister, you have a question?
Personal explanation, actually. I'm happy to pay for my own trip east, so if that helps.
Yes, that can be clarified afterwards. Okay. So, I have moved it, seconded by Councillor Adams. Is there any opposition?
I don't oppose it, but I'd like to move an amendment.
Okay, we'll just go into debate then. I will leave it as it is. Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Adams.
I reserve my right for reply, thank you.
Reserve your right, thank you. Opposition.
No opposition to that. I'd just like to move an amendment that, so point number 3, that all elected members provide a report on return.
Okay. I'm happy to accept that amendment, but I'll second it. Is there any opposition? Being no opposition, there is opposition? Sorry, no opposition, therefore I put the motion for that amendment. Amendment's carried 9-0. Thank you. Now we have the substantive motion in front of us. Do I have a speaker against? Speaker for? Right of reply. Second, Councillor Adams, you didn't speak. Do you wish to speak? Thank you. I've got no rebuttal. Therefore, sorry, 2 seconds. I'll just make sure we've got it up on the screen. Everyone can see. Therefore, if everyone's happy, I will put that motion. All those in favour?
Sorry, can I just ask a quick point of
Actually,
clarification?
No, you can't because we finished debate, sorry. Therefore, all those in favour, the motion's carried 9-0. Thank you, councillors. Sorry, sticking standing orders. Okay, item 17.1. Councillor Cox, St Michael's Parkway, North Dunsborough Lakes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll put the motion as written.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Love. Is there opposition? There is opposition. Let me just... Michaela Love, second. Councillor Love. Councillor Cox, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll keep this fairly short. The reason that I brought forward this notice of motion was that I was contacted by a number of, or over the last couple of years, I have been contacted by a number of community members that live in close proximity to this particular park in Dunsborough Lakes. Dunsborough Lakes was built, as most people may or may not be aware, originally it was sort of intended to be sort of a retiree golf village. It is now very different to that. The demographic is largely younger families, actually, and there's not a lot of usable play space within Dunsborough Lakes. I had some conversations with some of the community members in this area, near St Michael's Parkway particularly. It's a lovely park. It's just a big green space with some stone columns in the middle of it. And their commentary was that nobody uses the park because it's just green space with some stone columns. There's nothing usable in there. There's no barbecues, there's no seating area, there's no gazebo, there's no play equipment. And the idea was that perhaps it would be good, rather than the city just going and putting some infrastructure into the park, to have some guidance from the community as to what they would like to see, some consultation with them to see what they would like to see put in the park, so that it could be used more frequently by families and by surrounding residents, really. The reason I didn't open this notice of motion up to other parks in Dunsborough Lakes was because they haven't come up in any conversations that I've had, and that's not to say that they won't come up in the future. I think doing this in this space, just allocating some money purely for consultation, so that some designs can be done and we can then potentially allocate some money in the budget for infrastructure. It could actually be quite a good trial test case to see how well that process works. And if that process works for this park, there may be other parks that the officers did identify in the report that there are other reserves within Dunsborough Lakes. But I've not had any contact from anyone in close proximity to those particular parks. But if this park is addressed, then perhaps other people will come forward with one or two other parks within Dunsborough Lakes. I don't think that necessarily means that we have to go and do change every single park in Dunsborough Lakes, but maybe you start with one, and maybe over the other side of Dunsborough Lakes there might be another one that some community members would like to see some additional infrastructure put into. So that's purely my reason for bringing this notice of motion, was the fact that there would seem to be a community desire to do this, and the community were definitely keen to be part of the consultation process to see what actually would be good in this park that they would be able to use. So I urge you to support my notice of motion. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you. Councillor Love.
I will reserve my right of reply. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against? Councillor McNish.
Yes, well, firstly, encouraged to see the noms coming through. Very good. This is a good nom. Don't worry about that. And good reasons too. But I think that I take the lead from the council's decision in late January, where it was evident that the CEO and the staff were already working on the matter. So it was best then left to that process to come through. And I noted that would be a wider context. I mean, it's good that people are contacting Councillor Cox and she responds to bring this matter here, but that doesn't mean that other people don't want other things happening to their parks in Dunsborough Lakes. So simply that I vote against to let the process that the staff have already put underway take its proper course. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor Kennedy. Sorry, his light went on just before you. Look at the list.
Yes, thank you. I'll be speaking against mainly because it is too specific. So yes, officers have already identified it, and they've said that they'll take a more holistic approach and look across Dunsborough Lakes Estate to see what other improvements can be done. Also, I believe the city takes that view across the whole playgrounds, across the whole city, and are identifying playgrounds that need to be improved. But yeah, thank you for bringing it to council. It is good. Another thing, Councillor McNish, I'm quite surprised that you didn't do an amendment, because I know that the officers said it, but that doesn't mean that they'll do it. So
Councillor Kennedy.
Well, I mean, it's normally what Councillor McNish would say. Learning from Councillor McNish, because I think it is a great point. I wish to move an amendment that has been prepared, and it just ensures that the city continue to do their great work, and that the council are happy with looking for improvements in the Dunsborough Lake.
Do you wish to move your amendment now?
So yes, I'd wish to move my amendment, if you could bring that up on screen.
So this isn't an alternate, this is an amendment,
Just
correct?
an amendment. So, you know, it still has the spirit of what Councillor Cox said, and it just makes it a more of a holistic one, aligning to what the officers report. So I wish to move that if someone would like to second that.
Seconded. Councillor Adams. Is there any opposition? Sorry, with that. Sorry, I apologise. Just reminding myself of the original one. It's all right. Does this negate?
Oh, within the right, okay. Yeah, can we just, yeah.
Can we highlight the?
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't negate.
No.
Original motion. But it does, yeah. Okay, so we've got moved Councillor Kennedy, seconded Councillor Adams. Is there any opposition to this amendment? There is opposition, therefore Councillor Kennedy, you wish to speak to your amendment?
I won't speak to the amendment because I feel like I've said everything I need to say.
Thank you. Councillor Adams, you seconded?
I'll reserve my right of reply, thank you.
Okay. Speaker against, Councillor McNeish.
Yeah, thanks, sir. I understand the intent, but in the wording, future upgrades of what? Okay, so it could be any infrastructure, yeah, culverts, yeah. No, future upgrades. Well, let's have a new oval. Yeah, so, and I'm not sure about an allocation to undertake. Okay, so money to undertake, I'll go back a step. We'll get hit with about 1,000, 2,000 line items for all sorts of things, including capital works and on a precinct basis and da-da-da-da. So I'm not sure, this would ordinarily come up, now you've flagged it, this would come up under consideration, or you could make it under consideration in that budget development process. But undertake community consultation and preliminary design work, does that mean the money is used for the design work to design what could be upgraded on any infrastructure, massively broadly scope there, and then that's used as the basis for the consultation because it would ideally be costed as well. So you can't cost anything until you design it, and because we don't want to create expectation without, we're into expectation management, so you can have this and this.
Point of order.
So, yeah, so I just don't understand.
Sorry.
I'm voting against it because...
Please take your seat, Councillor McNeish. What is your point of order?
My point of order, sorry, I'm not too sure if it is a point of order, but I would like to withdraw my amendment.
Okay. You can't. I don't believe you can because it's in play. I think the motion's in play, so I think we're just going to be easiest just if we voted on it. Does anyone else want to speak for or against this motion? With the intent.
Are we speaking to the substantive again?
No, we are speaking to the amendment, which I will carry on in play because it is in play. Unless I have the authority to... All right, I'm just going to take advice on this.
As per 10.16 of the standing orders, the council committee may, without debate, grant leave to withdraw a motion or amendment on the request of the mover of the motion or amendment and with the approval of the seconder.
Okay. Thank you. So this amendment has been removed under item 10.16. Therefore, we return to the substantive motion. Not that one. Okay, and I will strike that one. We have speaker 4, councillor Muir.
Yep. I think I don't really have anything to add in the reasons for voting for this, but I would like to move an amendment, please, which is to replace St Michael's Parkway North with the below list in the officer comment, including St Michael's Parkway, and include the section, the list of previously identified reserves in the officer comment, a little further down.
There was a list in the officer's comment there.
That list there. So could it include those? So to replace the St Michael's Parkway, St Michael's Parkway and this list here. And in fact, maybe if I can, through the chair, ask a point of clarification, is St Michael's North the same one that?
Yeah. It is.
Okay, so to replace St Michael's North with this entire list here would be my amendment.
Do you want to cut and paste that?
Yeah, that's what I was hoping you could do.
Well, I think everyone understands the list. Therefore, do I have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Love, is there opposition? Being no opposition. You do, sorry, well, Councillor Dykstra will just beat you, unfortunately.
I'll speak to opposition. I don't know where to start, but there's every time we get a park that needs to be nominated to have a look at, the parks is already in the list there that Olive identified. So I don't think we need to change the nomination or the nom at all.
Okay.
Makes sense,
I
hopefully.
actually should have let Councillor Mueller speak first to that amendment. Sure. Councillor Love, did you wish to speak to that amendment?
I'll reserve my right of
Thank you.
reply.
All right.
Thank you.
You can carry on, Councillor Dykstra.
That's okay.
Thank you. Speaker, so that was against. Speaker 4. Councillor McNeish, you're speaking for.
Thanks, sir. Yes. So my concerns initially have been overcome. Nice piece of counselling there. Well done. And I think there was something I heard in Councillor Cox's words that talked about a pilot. Now, if this in a pilot trial, yes, sorry. If extending the parks to the Stonehenge plus these other ones now, would that not seemingly necessitate or give gravity to a trial? Because we're massively, we're significantly increasing the scope, but I think if there was able to be, and I'm not going to move any amendments or anything, but if there was able to be some sort of trial within this, this is not one park anymore, this is a whole heap of things. So if there was a way to run a trial as part of this exercise, I think it would stand us in good stead to explore a mechanism to establish a similar view for all the parks in the district, which need to be reviewed in time, and I would think have a rolling program, just like we have roads. We have can I ask how many parks we would have in the district?
47.
Approximately, in the whole district of the Shire of Busselton, City of Busselton.
Playgrounds or
I can't tell you off the top of my head, a lot.
Yeah, a lot, yeah. So this is a worthwhile exercise and we should be making the most of it. So I'm glad that it's been expanded in scope. So it's not as specific, so then it gets the support, I think we need to get it up. But if we can use this as a study kind of mechanism project to see how we can approach reviewing the rest of the parks in the district, I think that would be a good thing to do, and that program probably lasts 15 years. So I support that. Thank you.
Okay, speaker against. Councillor Ryan.
I'm speaking against the amendment, and I'll also be speaking against the NOM. And the reason being is that the staff have already identified that that's what they're going to do. a provisional sum of 50 grand, subject to council endorsement for consultation and preliminary design work in the draft 26-27 budget. This includes not only St Michael's Parkway North, but 5 other reserves in the Dunsborough Lakes area. This motion just simply duplicates the officer process. And too often I'm told that, staff are so busy, they haven't got time to do all the motions that I've put up. So the officer's report explains that St Michael's Parkway North is one of several reserves that staff have identified. And I recall a number of years ago that we were lobbied to get footpaths put into one of the new estates in near the bypass. And we were told, no, there's a process. There's a process of the parks, the walkways and how they're put on the budget, and we tick them off. And so this to me is usurping the hierarchy of how we do things. I think we need to let staff, in this particular case, do the work. The work is already funded and scheduled in the draft budget. It just needs to get approved. Officers have already undertaken strategic planning and bundled the reserve with others for fairness and efficiency. The motion adds no new value, outcomes or acceleration. And the officer recommendation already ensures strategic, policy-aligned consultation and design development. Why did we need a notice of motion to confirm that? Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor Love, you reserved your right.
I have no further comment to add, thank you.
Councillor Mueller?
Yeah, just quickly, it is an interesting point that Councillor Ryan raises, because I certainly have voted against motions that direct the CEO to do something that is already happening. However, I mean, that argument's been made a few times. I'm willing to try it the other way. I mean, yeah, that's the only other thing. That's all I have to add.
Therefore, I put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Cox, Councillor Mueller, Councillor Love, Councillor McNeish, Councillor Adams and Councillor Kennedy. Those against? Mayor Cronin, Councillor Dykstra and Councillor Ryan. The motion is carried. 6-3. The amendment, I apologise, 6-3. We now go to the substantive motion. And we have a speaker against. Councillor Adams, you're speaking against.
I am, only because I believe we're just doubling up. I don't think we need to do it again. It's already in there. And the one thing, no matter what people say, the one thing that the City of Busselton is good at is making really good functional parks. So I think we should just let the staff go and do their thing, and I'm sure it'll be awesome when they've done it. Thank you.
Speaker for? Sorry, Councillor Mueller, you've still got your microphone on. Thank you. Speaker for? Speaker against? I rise to speak against. I feel also that there's some duplication. I'm nervous of what we call, queue jumping, getting to put to the top of the list when their items are already going ahead anyway. So I don't feel it needs to be done. That's all. Speaker for? Speaker against? We've done that. Therefore, Councillor Love, you've reserved your right. No.
The only commentary that I would add is, as some councillors have noted, the officers have already said that this was their intention for the upcoming year anyway. I understand some concerns of supporting a motion that's already in the works potentially, but I don't actually see a negative in supporting this. The officers have said in their report that this was the scope of works that they were looking at in regards to Dunsborough for next year, I don't see how this is an issue, and that's why I would urge councillors to just support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Cox, your rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I look forward to providing some clarification to councillors on why I brought this nom forward in my rebuttal. So it's not queue jumping, as the Mayor suggested, because it was already identified by the officers. And the reason I brought this notice of motion to council, and it's not I'm aware it's a duplication. It doesn't create any extra work for officers because they were already doing it. However, what happens is when the community come with a concern to us and say, maybe this is something that council might like to consider, it might get put in a budget, it may or may not get put in a budget, it may or may not get endorsed, but what happens is the community don't see where that issue goes to. There is no transparency unless they're particularly looking for it. They think, oh, I raised that issue, I've been raising that issue for a couple of years. Is it getting done? Is it not getting done? What's happening with that issue? Therefore, by putting this forward, this notice of motion, the community get to see that this issue has been raised. They can read the report, they can see that the councillors are like, we identified it, but they can read this notice of motion if they're interested, and they can say, oh, okay, the city were actually going to do this. So therefore, it's not queue jumping, it's not usurping anything, and yes, whilst it may be a duplication, the community get to see in a transparent way what council are actually doing for them, and they've raised an issue, and that it is actually being addressed. And council, they don't know what the engineering department, they don't see the list of parks and the priority of those parks. Dunsborough Lakes is a unique, going back to the question of what we've got all these parks and why, why these parks. So it's unique because all these parks have been created with no infrastructure. We have many, many other parks throughout the city of Busselton that have infrastructure put in them, but these didn't have any infrastructure put in them. They're just simply green spaces. That's why the staff have identified that they need to be upgraded. So the whole reason is not to create more work for staff, not to queue jump, not to say to someone, oh, you get your part done before somebody else's, because I was very well aware that the staff were already looking at this because I consulted the staff before I put forward this notice of motion. So therefore, councillors, I would ask you to support it simply so the community know that a provisional sum may go forward in the draft budget, so therefore they can pay attention to the draft budget and see if it is endorsed by council so that this action may be achieved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Therefore, I put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Cox, Councillor Mueller, Councillor Love and Councillor Manish. All those against? Mayor Cronin, Councillor Dykstra, Councillor Ryan, Councillor Adams and Councillor Kennedy. The motion is lost 4-5. Item 17.2. Sure. CEO is leaving. Item 17.2. Councillor Love's Cultural Awareness Training and Review of Reconciliation Action Plan. Councillor Love, do you wish to put your motion?
I will move the motion.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Cox. Is there any opposition? There being opposition, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much. I have put this notice of motion up because we are currently, and this is no fault to the city, I know that we have had difficulties in regards with fulfilling the actions within our reconciliation action plan, just due to lack of resources, both on our end and on the end of the Aboriginal community groups, which we would ideally want to consult with to be able to proceed with the next iterations with the reconciliation action plan. But I would like to, highlight our reconciliation action plan to councillors, especially if you haven't had a chance to have a look. It has in our reconciliation action plan that we will update briefing to council on RAP achievements, define appropriate systems and capability to track, measure and report on RAP commitments, identify resources needed for RAP implementation. We've identified forming a RAP working group to govern RAP implementation, to draft the terms of reference for the RAP working group. We've identified many actions, and we endorsed this back in 2020. Yes, July 2020. Unfortunately, because of the lack of resources on both ends, not a lot of these actions have been able to be achieved. And I think this is quite an oversight. We have, as a council, committed to reconciliation, and I would like to see the council work towards actually enacting some of those actions within our reconciliation action plan, ideally before the end of my second term on council, because this is something that I have queried with our staff numerous times in the background on my first term on council. And yeah, like I said, we're on my second term, and I think it's a point of, I guess, priority to actually start getting onto it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Love. Councillor Cox.
I'll reserve my right. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Speaker against? Councillor McNish.
Thank you, sir. I'll go through the 3 points. Probably starting at number 3, we've just heard today how busy, well, the current CEO can't fit in anything else in, and I can tell you the new CEO will have his work cut, or her work cut out for that person. So I'm not sure that the reconciliation plan jumps the queue, to use terminology tonight, into that important space for the next, well, nearly 12 months. I look at number 1, and as I said before, that the council doesn't get briefed, it gets reported to. So, but as number 1 stands, I wouldn't support it out of a technicality, because it might be saying provides a briefing to elected members. That's what we do as a briefing forum. We have our elected members sitting in this chamber, which is not the council. And then number 2, well, I mean, I think cultural awareness training is important, and I would like to be able to be trained where I can assess the culture of the district, because that's what we're elected to govern. And in that context, then, and only then, start to work out what areas of district culture might need addressing, improving, supplementing, bolstering. So only after the full context of the district culture is established, then the council can consider what it wants to do with that information, and then break down the various elements that contribute to the culture, including what's being talked about here. So everything has a context, and I believe that would be the proper order. And I might also add, the cultural training would make elected members aware of how to observe an organisation. And we will be looking at culture with the new CEO, I suspect, very early on in the term. So cultural awareness training, terrific, but everything must take its contextual order. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I have a point of clarification?
You may ask through the chair.
Through the chair.
Thank you.
There was commentary just then about assessing the local Aboriginal community groups' culture, and then, from my understanding, sorry, I'm trying to think of how to frame this, that there was a phrase about as if we would be in some sort of position to then influence what cultural awareness training would be further on provided. I'm just trying to clarify what Councillor McNish meant in saying assessing the cultural awareness landscape and seeing what how we would influence that. I'm just a bit confused because...
I'm a bit confused as well now.
Because is that what you
Mr.
said?
CEO,
Is that what you said? Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that I've understood what he was saying in that.
With respect, Mr Mayor, you don't get to ask someone in the middle of a debate what they meant by their commentary.
Councillor, thank you. Yes, so I will concur with the CEO on that comment. Speaker, you've completed, sorry, did you complete? Thank you. Speaker for? Speaker against?
Thank you. Oh, you first.
You stood up, but we'll go for the light in future.
Thank you. Councillor Love refers to 1.6 of the RAP in her nom, which states, encourage officers in relevant areas to attend cultural training. In short, based on the RAP document, cultural awareness training is not presented as a personal values exercise, but as a governance, compliance and relationship management tool intended to help the city. I represent a community which serves only 2% Aboriginal. However, the remainder of the community consists of 30,356 Australians, according to the 2021 census. The majority locally born, New Zealand 956, the largest overseas group, British Isles 3,721. I'm a ring in. From England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and so on. Chinese Asia, 113, China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, South Asia, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and I can go on. They all have culture. The voice referendum, which was conducted in October 2023, resulted in 71,974 votes. 69, nearly 70% voted no. State and federal all have laws in relation to Aboriginal matters. Why should ratepayers be forking out more money for training in this regard? If you'd like to do it, Councillor Love, then I suggest you use your training allowance. Go right ahead. I hear time and again that we can't afford whatever, and I'm extremely mindful of the cost of living crisis because this will cost the ratepayers money. There is no statutory obligation in the Local Government Act, the Heritage Act, Aboriginal Heritage Act, as referenced in the RAP, or any other cited legislation requiring councillors to undergo cultural awareness training. The RAP refers to providing information and encouraging participation, but does not mandate attendance. It places the responsibility on the officers so that they can find out the information and put it in the report, whatever the report may be. Such is all the other reports we get. We get their information, their thoughts, and it's our job then to figure out whether it's right or wrong. The RAP emphasises conversation, relationship building and mutual respect, not compulsory training. It acknowledges a long and winding and corrugated road of engagement and the need for honest, ongoing conversation. And as a councillor may argue they prefer direct engagement with the local Aboriginal people rather than generic training modules. Because you've got to remember, we have our group of Aboriginals down here, and up in Bunbury, they've got a different group. So I'm not sure who's going to do the training. At a recent One Nation pre-selection meeting for the seat of Farrer, the hundreds of people who attended sang the national anthem. We are one and we are many, and from all the lands and earth we come. We share a dream and sing with one voice. I am, you are, we are Australian. The words are apt. And in closing, I will no doubt be called a racist by some. I'm not a racist, I'm a realist, but I can guarantee you that I have a number of truly Aboriginal friends, and they too are tired of the virtue signalling which appears to be all too easy these days. If we were to have cultural training, then Busselton settlers should be part of the history lesson, which seems to be forgotten and sometimes maligned by some. Just about every document we have acknowledges our Indigenous. At every meeting we acknowledge them. Our council plan states we actively engage with community to deliver visionary, collaborative and accountable leadership. Every week there is an opportunity for any individual or any group to address councillors or the council on any matter. May I suggest that this is the avenue where we can learn from our local people, not a training course run by Wolga, which would not reflect our local values. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker 4. Speaker against? Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you. Yes, I rise to speak against. Thank you, Councillor Ryan, for that one. Look forward to when the wrap comes to council, and you can have your points there as well. But just looking at this very simply, I don't think the council or elected members need a report on a report. So we have a council plan. We've already had an interim report to show where all of our actions are and where the wrap is at. And I think the focus just needs to be on finalising the wrap. So I'll wait till the wrap comes and have a look at it then. Thank you, elected members. Oh, I will move an amendment.
Sure.
I will, yeah.
We've got time.
And it is just to ensure that a briefing comes to elected members.
Is that an amendment or a complete foreshadowed
It's an
alternate?
amendment. I'll be seeking to move an amendment, and if I... Well,
Where is this amendment?
It will be up
Point
on
4.
screen shortly, but I could word it out. I've had some practice. Will you be able to find that? Is that the one you sent through? Yeah, in that email thread. But the amendment is very simple. We can do that one, but remove 2, so it's just point 1.
I think that would negate investigate, report back on training.
I mean, it's just removing essentially.
So we're just adding a point to 1.
And the gist of it is mainly that a briefing comes to elected members.
I'll just let him clarify this first.
I was just going to ask a question.
I just want the attention of everyone.
Well, the question was, if the mover and seconder agreed to amend the word briefing to the council to elected members,
I was going to move that. So.
but if they just agreed to do it,
Well, I'll
then
change
would
it to
you?
elected members.
Well, it can be done simply by a show of hands in 1 second. Then would you agree to split the item?
Yes, I could do that.
Because I think a briefing would be worthwhile.
Okay. I'm actually going to adjourn 5 minutes, and part of that is a personal reason. We will get this sorted, and I will be brought back to speed. So we will come back at 17:33. Thank you, councillors.
Recommencing the meeting.
Are we? We are live. I'm recommencing the meeting at 19:33. Councillor Love, if through the agreement of the seconder, are you happy to change the word in point 1 from council to elected members? If you could just put the microphone on for that one.
I do agree.
Thank you. And Councillor Cox, are you in agreement?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, I agree.
Therefore, I will change the wording to elected members. I'll get that. Thank you. Okay, so in hindsight, what I will do is when we vote on this, I will break this into 3 parts. And we will vote on that. And on that basis, Councillor Kennedy has decided to not go any further with his amendment. Are we all clear? Therefore, we have had a speaker against, speaker for. I will raise to speak for only on a couple of points. It was mentioned that, yes, the First Nations people may only be an extremely small percentage, and I recognise that, and we could break down into cultural awareness for all groups, but I believe the significance is their point of being First Nations, and therefore, regardless of percentage, I feel that under the way the council has moved forward, particularly with the RAP and its commitments to First Nations, it would be wise for us particularly to do training. I have personally just completed training, actually only on Tuesday. I did this with the Underlup group, and I found it to be quite eye-opening. I learnt quite a bit more that would assist when making decisions, per se, whether it may be on items as Smith's Beach or having an insight to the views of the Aboriginal community, the way they look at country, the way they look at land. So I find that it would help us to not offend a community group, and one that we have as a council committed to through the RAP, the Reconciliation Plan. So I just wanted to sort of really raise that. When we talk about history, often we come to arguments about money, about priorities, about time, about officers. This is why we're all here. This is why we vote. Some of us feel that money should not be spent on some things. Money should be spent on other things. Using money as an argument would come up in every single debate. So I really just wanted to say that having gone through the training, I found it of great value. There are certain things also, I've been on council for 6.5 years. The last training I did in this area was probably about 5.5 years ago, maybe 6. I have not done any training, and I think Councillor Cox was on that training at the time, but there's been nothing since. I do believe that awareness is of value, but that's all I wish to say on that front. Thank you. Speaker against? Speaker for? Therefore, we have Councillor Cox, you reserved your right. Sorry, yes, you reserved your right.
Yes, I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Do you wish to speak? No speak. No speak. Okay. Councillor Love, your rebuttal.
I've got a few points to make note of. Firstly, there was mention of why don't we do cultural awareness training of all other ethnicities and cultures within our local government area. I would like to highlight what the mayor did already note, that these are our First Nations, our traditional owners, and I think people are forgetting that they were actually denied their citizenship rights up until 1971.
67.
They went to 67, all right. They went and fought to the wars with us. They went to World War I, World War II, Vietnam War. I don't think there's another culture or ethnicity that lives in Australia currently, where we were turning around and saying, hey mate, we don't even identify you as humans, much less that being the people that lived here before we got there. And okay, maybe I'm being woke, maybe I'm caring a little bit too much, but that's just me. And this isn't jumping the queue. We have had this plan in existence for now 6 years. Oh, in July it will be coming up 6 years. All right, it's severely out of date. It's been 5 years since when we were supposed to last reiterate the next one, which I don't want to push for a reiteration. If we're not there to get to the next stage of, I think it's innovate is the next reconciliation action plan stage. If we're not ready for that, we're not ready. We, by and large, have not ticked off quite a number of these reflect things. There's no date actually allocated to my request because I am aware we've got a busy schedule, but I want this on the forefront of councillors' minds that this is something that we have had such a big oversight on. And I understand we have had a CEO leave, we've recruited, and that one's left and we're about to go through the next process. I get it, things get pushed aside, but they shouldn't be kept on pushed aside for 6 years. That's a lot of time. And that's why I've acknowledged that, okay, potentially we can't get access to our local Aboriginal community. And I would ideally want us to have our cultural awareness training done by them and provided by them. But if we can't access them and it is cross-prohibitive, there's a free website that the WA government that provides for us. And on one hand, I'm told that you don't want to pay for this training. And then on the other hand, we're getting told you just want it localised. So a bit confusing for me there. And then it was highlighted about the no vote. I don't see how the no vote has anything to do with this whatsoever. The no vote, it was a completely different reform that the federal Labor government was trying to put into place. We as a council back in 2020 and by and large in other council plans have reiterated and reaffirmed that we want to reconciliate with our local Aboriginal community. It's a bit disheartening to me that I get told that because there's only 2% representation, it's not worth the effort. I wonder how many people identify as having a disability in Busselton, what that percentage would be, because from having a look, quick Google and a look online, in a regional context of WA, the Australian Bureau of Statistic data from the 2021 census identified that there was only approximately 4.6% of WA's Western Australians that identify and report needing assistance for their disabilities. So does that mean that we shouldn't consult with people with their disabilities for access and inclusion because they don't make up enough of the population? Bit disheartening for me, guys. And yep, like I said, there already is a RAP plan. It's not me endorsing, initiating a RAP plan. It's me actually bringing to attention of the council and the community, by the way, that we're so far behind in this. It actually really frustrates me because it's not me trying to be woke. It's me just trying to actually, I guess, be respectful of the fact that we have, as a society, and yes, it was quite some time ago that all these things had happened, but we've stripped a lot of their culture from them. Why not, if there's elders out there that are wanting to share their culture with us so that we know going forward in a position of power to make decisions for the city as a whole, we can have a bit of a thought, is this going to be appropriate? Is this going to maybe stir up some feelings of discontent with our Aboriginal community? I don't know, it is a passion project on me, but
thank you. That's
why I'd urge all councillors to support.
Okay. Therefore, I will break this down into 3 parts. Firstly, I will take a vote on part 1. All those in favour? Carried 9-0. Thank you. Part 2. Just wait. Just give you time to quickly read that. Okay, I put forward the motion, the part 2. All those in favour? Mayor Cronin, Councillor Cox, Councillor Love, Councillor Dykstra. Those against? Councillor Mueller, Councillor McNeish, Councillor Ryan, Councillor Adams and Councillor Kennedy. The motion, that is lost 4-5. And part 3. All those in favour? Sorry, I've got to vote myself. Okay. All those in favour? Councillor Cox, Councillor Love, Councillor Dykstra. Those against? Mayor Cronin, Councillor Mueller, Councillor McNeish, Councillor Ryan, Councillor Adams and Councillor Kennedy. The motion is lost 3-6. Thank you. Move on to item 17.3. Investigation into the establishment of a youth advisory committee. Motion there in front of you. Councillor Love, do you wish to put your motion?
Yes, I'll put the motion as written.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Mueller. Is there opposition? There being opposition, Councillor Love, put your motion.
I do want to prelude my debate by acknowledging the city does make efforts and does do well in regard to providing youth services, but why not strive to do even better? The officers are suggesting that it's too hard to engage with the youth to establish a youth advisory committee or reference group. But then within the same report, by their own admission, the city has acknowledged, and this is verbatim, that our youth services engage a diverse range cohort, particularly young people with disability, young people at risk, Aboriginal youth, and culturally and linguistically diverse young people. So why exactly do we think that just because some youth advisory groups struggle with engagement, that we would face the same issues when we already have such great engagement with our services? More evidence to support this is to look at our youth plan, What's Up in Your World. We had 135 respondents. Keep in mind, I think we get roughly about 2,000 responses, give or take, to our community strategic plan, which we invest a decent amount of money into the consultancy work to consult with our community. To juxtapose this with 135 responses for a plan which affects only a fourth of our population with a very limited budget in comparison to our community strategic plan consultation, just reflects how our youth do in fact want to be engaged. If you also take the time to look at some of the issues raised in this plan, our youth are raising some really serious concerns. People are embarrassed and this is taken straight from the plan, people are embarrassed to talk about mental health. Services are unavailable. Having wellness activities cheaply would be ideal. Transport is a barrier to going to school, getting a job, accessing appointments. That's just true, that stuck out to me. There were others talking about dealing with youth homelessness. I implore councillors to actually have a look and read for themselves. These are real people with real problems. And I'm not going to say youth, these are real people. And they are our constituents. And they want to get involved. Further to this, the mayor and myself had only recently visited Busselton Senior High School and had the students there asking us themselves, why don't we have a youth advisory group? Because they do want to get involved. Finally, I find a bit insulting and condescending to be told that the youth don't want to be engaged when I myself was considered a youth when I was elected to the council in 2021. I'm not the only young councillor in WA either. There was a councillor elected to the city of Kalgoorlie-Boulder in the same year I was initially elected, who was only 19. I've met a number of councillors who are under the age of 25. So to say the youth don't want to get involved when there are a number of youth who are actively serving their community by sitting on their shires in council. I would even argue that a number of these young councillors have to forego their full earning potential, such as myself. I gave up my full-time job when I got on council for the betterment of their communities, because they do care, immensely so. This doesn't have to be a committee which meets monthly. I would imagine bi-monthly or quarterly would be sufficient, and that's why I've requested for the CEO to investigate and report back on the feasibility. I'm not saying let's just go ahead, eyes closed and no idea. Let's get a bit of an idea, some costings, and provide us with some advice as to the establishment of this. And then we can canvass this reference group or committee, whichever terminology or one we decide on upcoming strategic projects, community initiatives, planning matters, what education and working opportunities we should advocate for. We have identified in our youth plan that we would partner and advocate for the promotion of sustainability and allow young people to have a voice on issues, encourage youth to participate in surveys and community consultation. I just don't see why there's such a pushback at establishing just a reference group or an advisory group that we can touch base on and check that we are going in the right direction for our youth, for the services that they require living here. And that's why I urge all councillors to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mueller.
I'll reserve my right, thanks.
Speaker against. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you. I certainly appreciate the intent behind this motion. The officer's report makes it clear that the city already has a strong, effective, diverse youth engagement framework. Our youth services team engages young people through traineeships, youth spaces, leadership forums, targeted surveys, outreach and disability organisations and the like. And our youth services team does a fantastic job. Angela's here tonight. This approach ensures we hear from a broad group of young people across Busselton, not just those ones who are confident and already engaged. By contrast, youth advisory committees often attract a small, self-selecting group, and evidence shows they struggle to represent maligned youth and can have limited long-term policy impact. They also require significant ongoing resources to administer effectively. Importantly, staff have not supported establishing a YAC at this time. They have recommended instead that we continue strengthening the successful engagement methods already in place. The officer report notes that many local governments struggle to populate YACs because schools already have established leadership structures, reducing young people's desire or capacity to join another body. For these reasons, I believe creating another formal structure would add complexity without improving any outcomes. Our focus should be on enhancing what we already have, not duplicating them. It should also be noted the city reviews all committees every 2 years, might be 4 years in future, after local government elections, which is when new structures are normally considered. Creating a YAC now is out of step with the city's governance framework and may lead to inconsistency in community structures and oversight. I would also question, if we were to create this committee, why would we not create a seniors committee, a nursing mothers committee, a cyclists committee? I'm being flippant, but these groups are formed in the community, and as stated previously, there is every opportunity to present to councillors or council on issues when and where they exist. We cannot solve the problems of the world. We can't. To date, the CEO said clearly we need to rein in what we're doing and what we are spending. Noting the motion asks the CEO to investigate and report back on a feasibility of establishing a YAC, I think the report is evident. It is for these reasons I'll not be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Speaker 4. Councillor Adams.
I love your passion, Councillor Love, and I would love to be on a committee if it did form. I think I've got a very simplistic approach to life, and I think we're missing the point a bit on some of this, and And even Councillor Love, I think, is missing the point. And although I speak for it, I also agree with Councillor Ryan. We overcomplicate, we can't save the world. But I think the young people of today need their own voice. We go to these, and I don't know what the council, this is, so I'm dead in the water as far as what the council, I'm sure they're doing a great job. But I think you see those two young ladies tonight come along and put their questions up and sound confident. I'm sure they had a bit of help along the way. I don't know where they got that from, but that inspires me. I just think good on you kids, and I just think we overcomplicate it. Even if you get something going and keeping it really simple, just get them together. I say this without trying to get a tea. I had a phone call at 5 o'clock, and one of my best mates, a young bloke, just killed himself today, or last night, shot himself. And he was 23. Life of the party, great kid, but just got isolated, missed the family. And I think you can't save the world, but if you get some kids together, you might get more. And if it doesn't work, you can disband it after 12 months. But I think it's just something we've got to give a crack at. You just got to have a crack. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't have a clue. There could be 20 projects going at the moment. But I just think we need it. But what I think you should have done, Councillor Love, is get them to come to a CAS session, have a chat to us all first, and that would have been pushed it over the line for you, I would think. But yeah, I'm just sorry, just obviously a bit with what's happened today, that brings it to the forefront. And yeah.
Speaker against? I'm going to speak against. I think, and I commend Councillor Love for bringing this to the forefront, and I think it is great. We did do an amazing session at the Busselton Senior High School, and I see that, and I'm happy to work with Councillor Love in going to the schools and having conversations and seeing if we, pretty much like sort of the cats, getting them along to the CAS session. We've had, I've had Cape Nat School come here, and they sat here and they did debating and everything. It was absolutely fantastic. They got so much out of it. I want to just step back, as we've said, putting a lot of pressure right now on the CEO, and I appreciate that Councillor Love has not put a date, but I would like, even if it's an unofficial working group, to those, Councillor Adams, we can meet up, we can talk about how we can get into the schools. I've been talking to the principals. I think it's a great option. It's a great opportunity for us to be seen as councillors, for those that want. Obviously, Councillor Mueller is a school teacher, which would be a fantastic representative on this group. And I think maybe working with certain people in certain buildings that the council have, this would be a fantastic opportunity. I just feel that the way this is scripted is a little bit premature, but I put my hand up and I will say, I'll be part of that group. I think Councillor Adams will be part of that group. You'll be part of that group, and we can see what we can actually do. So I was speaking against at this point, but I'm not saying we're putting it on the back burner, but we need to do a little bit more work. And like you said, get the kids down, let them talk to us and find out how we can get everyone involved. That's all. Thank you. Speaker for? Speaker against?
Thank you, sir. I'll mirror some of the comments that have just been made. Structurally, the matter of committees is dealt with every 2 years. We have feedback mechanisms that already exist, that are in place. None the least is communicating through our elected members, of which we have 3, who've just said we get youth issues to us all the time. So that exists. The priority is not there at present. We have got a lot of other stuff to do, as we found out today as well. The executive is very full for the coming year. I believe that sport and rec is probably the best thing we can do for youth, but we also give them good roads, good footpaths, etc. to traverse on and enjoy. We've got a service review coming soon, and we've been asked for priorities for that. So if you feel very strongly, I'm sure that if you rate this number 1 or 2 or 3, that come through in that mechanism. And I too would like to see the youth attend more often and to bring matters directly to the elected members in the chamber through the CAS sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Speaker 4. Councillor Mueller, you reserved your right.
Yes, thanks very much. All right, so I've just made some notes as I've listened to people speak and to sort of inform my argument. But at the start of tonight's meeting, we decided to form a position that we would force the community to vote in an election because there was a lack of people being interested in this kind of thing in local government. Yet this, to me, sounds like the perfect opportunity to get young people involved, and it sounds like the best idea I've heard yet to actually do something about getting people interested in local government by giving them a voice, right? Now, it's different to seniors and cyclists because guess what? They can vote. They can actually go forward and put their stuff forward. They are electors. Young people are not. They don't have that right yet. So we need to give them a voice, considering that they don't have the right to vote yet. So it's a way to get young people involved into the democratic decision-making process. When myself and a couple of other members were trying to get people to vote for us and people were deciding who they would vote for to represent them, the question was asked several times about how could we, what could we do for young people, how could we engage them, would we support engagement of young people in our community? So there's definitely an appetite for it amongst the voters of this community. As the Mayor pointed out, I'm a teacher and I have firsthand seen the interest young people have taken watching one of their teachers get elected to council. Some of them had no clue. They're like, are you the mayor? What do? Do you make decisions? Are you, state government? They didn't understand. So just that alone, I've seen, I would say, almost hundreds of kids now gain an insight into how this process works. And I think that encouraging further engagement by the youth in the decision-making in their community is fantastic. There was... So in this thing, it says here that the council requires the CEO to investigate and report back the feasibility of establishing a youth advisory committee or similar, like the Mayor alluded to. Something similar could be a working group. It could be something different. So this could actually, keep it in our minds, keep it in this forum where we have to make a decision on doing exactly what the Mayor said, or different. There's several different ways that this can be done. It's being done one way currently. That doesn't mean it can't be done better. There's always, things evolve, we learn, times change, And look, when it comes to CEO saying that we need to be careful what we take on, I don't think he was talking about, providing some advice on a youth advisory committee. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that's not how I understood it when he said it. So, look, I don't understand why we wouldn't request a YAC or similar mechanism, right? I don't know the best way to do these things, but there's people in this organisation that do. So the CEO can engage them to help us come up with maybe a refined version of what already exists or something completely different. So, guys, I can't imagine a single reason why you wouldn't want to give people that don't, give young people more of a voice and to get them involved in this process, which, like I said, this council just tonight decided that people aren't engaged, and I think this is a fantastic way to engage them.
Thank you, Councillor Mueller. Councillor Love, you
Point of order.
Point of order? What is your point of order?
Yeah, can I have a chance to speak against before the reply?
He can. Yeah, did I miss you? Is that what you're saying? We haven't proceeded to the... All right, we haven't proceeded to the vote, and if I missed, yes, even though, you reserved your rights, surely. So, I'll allow you to speak.
Thank you. I'll just speak quickly because I think this one is on the fence. So I'm speaking against this one. And yes, want to thank the young ladies that came in this morning. But I do want to ask why they're not here now. And, I think the reason is because this can be pretty boring. Committee meetings can be pretty boring. And so we have to consider an appropriate forum, especially for the youth. And we have a lot out there, that are being used. But when I look at committees, I think they are great at making decisions, but they're not that good at having a conversation and fleshing out ideas. I mean, if you look at the time now and what we've got through tonight, I mean, we made some decisions, but it took a long time. So that's my main point, is I don't think a YAC is the appropriate forum for this. We have other forums. When interest grows in that, then you could look for a YAC, but at the moment I don't think we're there yet. So I would be encouraging everyone to vote against. Thank you.
Councillor Love, the only thing I'll say, rebuttal, please, no new information. Thank you.
Everyone keeps on going on about just committee. I did put the wording in, similar mechanism. I actually probably would prefer, and I should have amended a reference group, advisory group. Once again, we had been told about, we've got so much under the pump, resourcing, costing, so that's why I will allude to the fact that we all got sent the email of response back to my questions. Estimated cost, and this was to do monthly meetings, was up to a maximum of $16,000 per year. We haven't just approved potentially 20 to 25. I know councillors did say that some of them will pay for their own costs, but $20,000 to $25,000 for a once-off visit to Canberra. Is that how little our youth matter to the council? Just throwing that out there. Like, we put in so much money on just the most benign things at times. We've put them, and we can't allocate a little bit of our budget towards putting together an informal meeting once every 4 months, once every 3 months. I just think it's a bit of a shame. As Councillor Mueller did point out, we just also voted on endorsing compulsory voting because we want our community to get engaged, and then we just turn around and say, hey, but your youth, you don't actually count. Doesn't matter what you want. We'll consult to you when it's appealing to us, when we so choose ad hoc. I really struggle to see why there's such a pushback. And we had, I think it was Councillor Kennedy just said, when the interest grows enough, we should then look at this. Our youth services are so well utilised that we're actually doing a feasibility study soon for Vass and Provence to provide more for our youth services. If that does not show that there is increasing interest within our youth services already, then I don't know what does. Like I said, I got on the council as a youth. I don't know how that doesn't show. We've had youth tell us we want this when we've gone to the schools. I do get inundated by my sister and her friends and everyone around that is of that category saying, why doesn't council do this? Why don't they? And I say to them, oh, I would love for you to come to CAS. And it is hard to get them here because, as you said, they do have working requirements. They do have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I know it wouldn't be easy or ideal, but that's why having an advisory group, you've got a set time, you've got a set day, and they can shuffle things around. Not when it's ad hoc that you've got a week and a half's notice that, oh, there's something on the agenda that interests me. Now I've got to ask my boss a week out to get the time off of work to come in and ask and speak to the motion. Bit hard, because I think, as many would be aware, the youth work after school. They work during this time. It's a bit hard to get to the council chambers and have an impact and a voice and a say. And as Councillor Mueller said, lots of our youth, they're not over the age of 18. We say use your vote as your voice. They don't get that chance. And we see in our demographics, we've had a briefing just the other week and it showed our demographics. We see that the youth leave. Okay, I'm not saying that this would prevent them leaving because we still don't have the work opportunities and the training provided that is provided in the metro areas, but it would help guide us as to what they want us to advocate, what's going to make them stay, what's going to help them stay here and actually help towards the tourism industry.
Please stick to the rebuttal. Thank you. Cheers. Don't argue with me, please. Just.
And then councillors had said that the staff had said in reports that, you know, we're doing excellent, let's just go on how it is and we should just follow what the staff want. It's very interesting that those councillors are the same ones that tend to always push back on that we shouldn't just take the staff at their word, and that it is us as councillors who are elected into this role to make the end decision and the calling shot. So that's what I'll end on. And yeah, I would urge all councillors to actually, I guess, give a voice to our youth. Give them a chance to come along. And if it turns out that we do struggle to engage them, we can disband the committee. It doesn't hurt.
Thank you, Councillor Love. I therefore put the motion in front of you. All those in favour? That's Mayor Cronin, Councillor Cox, Councillor Mueller, Councillor Love, Councillor Dykstra and Councillor Adams. Those against, Councillor McNeish, Councillor Ryan and Councillor Kennedy. The motion is carried 6-3. Okay, we now move on to an item of confidentiality.
Could I ask a question,
Sure.
please, Mr Mayor? Could I ask through the Mayor, are there any questions or queries in relation to the recommendation that's come from the CEO Selection Committee?
Not a question on the issue, but where's the attachment? I found the report, but it says attachment, and I don't know where the attachment is.
Well, the attachment was circulated, and it would have had on the copy you got, it'll have your name.
Okay. The report says the attachment, and I did ask Mr Whitehill earlier if there was an extra item on the agenda tonight, and he said no.
That being the case, then I withdraw my request whether we'll need to go behind closed doors, if there are questions. Yep.
Not a question. Oh, sorry, but can I make a statement as an observer during that meeting? I found it...
Not until we go to closed
Sorry, yeah.
closed
Okay,
session.
therefore, excuse me, a lot of paperwork up here. Okay, item 19, we have one report of confidential nature in accordance with section 5.23 of the Local Government Act 1995. In order to maintain the confidentiality of these items, I will seek a decision to close the meeting to members of the public and all staff. Do I have a mover to close the meeting to the public? Moved Councillor Mueller, seconded Councillor Dykstra. Is there any opposition? Being no opposition, I put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried 9-0. Therefore, I will Okay, we're back on live. Welcome back. Just say the item 19.1, which was moved by Councillor Cox and seconded by Councillor McNish. The committee recommendation that the committee recommend to the council that 1, the candidates contained in confidential attachment be interviewed, and 2, if any of the identified candidates withdraw, the candidate in confidential attachment 2 be added to the interview list. This motion was carried 9-0, absolute majority. The next ordinary council meeting will be on Wednesday, the 25th of March 2026. I now declare the meeting closed at 20:21. I thank you all for your attendance.